All right, so we are in the official March podcast of 2019. And
Woo.
I know. St. Patrick's Day, big event.
St. Patty's.
St. Patty's Day for us New Englanders. The official day where it's still kind of cold, but we drink beer outside for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Always a big one.
Hope it doesn't snow.
It does get pretty crazy up here.
It does get really
In
crazy
the
up here.
Northeast.
It's all the cast of The Departed from Boston. Living it up. But I'm excited here. Another great podcast. We got Scott Roberts. We got Dave Siekman. So, guys, where were you in February? Give our listening crowd the rundown of where you were in February.
I had a great time in February. A lot of local travel, which it's interesting being up here in New England because you can either drive in the snow or you can sit at the airport in a delay. And it's like, okay, which one of these is better? So I had a lot of travel. I went up to New Hampshire, Maine, a lot of Massachusetts stuff. I did get out to Illinois as well to visit a client out there. So I did get out the one time I tried to fly this month.
So you got to go to the warm weather areas. Then
But even then, I'm just sitting at Logan Airport.
But if you got to get trapped in the warm area.
Yeah, well, that's true. My wife and kids would appreciate that. That would be awesome for them.
Sorry, guys, I'm at the beach with a little Mai Tai, just waiting out the storm. This is travel stuff. Totally. February I was in Virginia twice, which was amazing. Had a lot of time at Roanoke, Virginia. That was the main airport for two different agencies. Got to see my friends, the Spivies in Charlotte, which is super cool. And also, I did get to spend a little time in the coastline of Georgia. So I signed a client that's right over the Florida border. Very beachfront, very nice.
Right on the Florida-Georgia line?
Right on the Florida-Georgia line. Yeah, 45 minutes from the Jacksonville airport. So that was exciting because while it was a little chilly here, I got to breathe in the fresh ocean air, a little bit warmer. So I plan accordingly these days as far as the travel. Go south in the winter and go north in the summer. That's my thing.
Okay, good plan.
And Scott, I mean,
That's
you
smart.
had your first IAOA conference. So what did you think?
I had a great time. There were so many wonderful people to meet. I have been more local this month, but just spending a lot of time following up with a lot of great people who need help in their agencies and want to discuss some plans for the future. So I've been virtually all over the country. But
Transporting everywhere.
It was quiet. I got no response on that.
I laughed.
And where are we at in the month of March, Steve? Where are you going?
I am headed to Montana twice, actually. Two different times to Montana. So I'm visiting both people that live there. I'm going to New Orleans for training and headed out to Kansas as well.
So would you say that you have a monopoly on insurance training and consulting in Montana?
I absolutely do.
I guess so.
100% on both sides of the mountain.
Well, Montana's my favorite state, so I hope you have.
It's absolutely beautiful. I've only been there once, and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
You can see forever, and then all of a sudden there's a mountain.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and people are a lot more laid back than out here in New England. They're a lot less angry.
Yes, they are.
I'm trying to think, where am I going? Well, I'm actually heading north, so I'm going to Vermont for an agency that's got 5 locations, do a little assessment up there. There's a chance I'm heading out west to California, and then of course end the big month at Elevate in New Orleans.
Elevate.
So I know that'll
looking forward to that.
See everybody and do everything. And actually, I think we've announced it before, but I've gotten a lot of feedback. People are very excited to meet my husband. They don't think he exists. Now, I know you two know that he exists.
He set up his own little booth.
I know, it's like me and Andrew Pirro.
Me and Andrew.
But it's hard with this 15-year-old senior citizen dog to sometimes balance out him coming along to things. So Roxy will have a nurse practitioner with her at all times, and we're going to sneak down to Elevate a bit early. So if anybody would like to meet Andrew Pirro, you can stop by the booth. We'll charge $5 a handshake. He'll sign autographs, and we'll go from there.
$5 a handshake, $10 a hug, $20 a
He's
kiss.
not really a hugger. He's not.
Well, all right, $20 a hug.
His personal space with strangers can get a little suspect.
Let's just spring him on. Let's spring that on him. By the way, not don't give him any warning that that's going to be happening.
Oh, he'll be off in the corner, like swearing at people that work for him. So, but we've got a big topic here today, guys, and one that I think we've all faced and dealt with, and been in miscellaneous situations with. It's no secret, I think, to anybody that insurance is heavily family-based, right?
Absolutely.
I think that there's like the corporate agencies, there's the, more scratch agencies, and then there's this clump of family-based agencies. And, working with your family does bring quite a few challenges to the table. And it's got some definite upside as well. So just want to throw it out there. Where do you guys see as just, the biggest challenges of being in a family-based agency? Don't all jump in.
Well, I was going to let Scott go, but I'll go. To me, I think there is this idea that, second generation business owners in general, right? I'm going to actually leave the insurance space because I don't know if this necessarily applies only to insurance agents. I think this is true of any kind of family-based business. I think there's this idea that the second generation has it easy, right? Or even the third generation, dad, mom, grandma, grandpa, whoever it was, kind of established this. They were the ones starting from scratch. They were the ones going door to door, knocking. And then, I just got to grow up in the lap of luxury and jump into an already established business. But I think what people forget is that first generation, yeah, they had to work hard and start from scratch, but they got to grow with the business. So they got to start at policy 1. And then when they were up to 100 policies, say, okay, we have to change now, and then make their first hire and be able to evolve and grow with the business. Whereas the next generation kind of gets thrown in. And it's like, okay, now there's an established business. I have zero experience. I don't have any training in management, how to run a business. So I don't have training or experience. And all of a sudden I just get thrown in. And I'm like, okay, now here's a business. Or now you're expected to continue to be able to run this business and really grow this business without having that benefit of growing up with the business. I think that can be really hard for that next generation.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I also see that you want to make your mom and dad proud. And so there's this incredible pressure of how can I live up to what they've done? Your parents sometimes can be larger than life. And, there's definitely some generational differences that you can deal with. A lot of the kids that we see coming in looking to take over the agencies, they want everything kind of easier and fast. And the older generation is like, I called from the yellow pages, bro. Stop trying to write cannabis factories, don't chase the next fad of the day. You got to do the blocking and tackling and figure out how to sell insurance. And I think it's so hard too for the parents to explain how did they do it, right? Because the way that they didn't probably wouldn't necessarily 100% work today in a different society. So there's this rift of, hey, you got to go figure it out yourself. And I think the other hard part is, I think, and I wasn't blessed enough to have a family-based business. And I guess I should take that back. If we had a family-based business, we would have basically needed all of our services 24/7.
Awesome.
Somebody would have been in prison. There would have just been a whole thing. We can barely get through Thanksgiving dinner together, let alone run an actual business. But, when it comes down to it, it's I think a lot of the kids that do have that opportunity, they don't necessarily give themselves the space to say, do I really want to work in this business? It's sort of just well, why wouldn't I? It's my family business. Of course I do. And look at the money that we can make. And I don't want to let my parents down. So sometimes I don't think they ever stop and say, you know what? I really just want to be a chiropractor. I don't really want to be in insurance. And they get swept up into it. And I think it's so hard then to get out of it and figure out what you want to do.
What's that little elf's name? The guy that decides he wants to be a dentist in Rudolph? Hermie or something like that? That guy had it figured out, right? He was like, oh, my whole family, they're all going to be toy makers. But you know what? I want to be a dentist. So it's at least he had that thought process.
Well, and I also think too, it's kind of like if I owned a business and I had children, I can't think of anything that make me prouder than having my kids come take it over. Like
Right.
as the parent, that's like your ultimate dream. You know, you don't want to go sell your business has your name on it to the guy down the road or a stranger or someone paying the best multiple that day. The ultimate would be it goes and perpetuates to your family and to keep growing and living and supporting all your heirs. But, you know, and that's not always the situation.
Always in the cards. Yeah.
And Scott,
Right.
I know you have some very unique experience on this because you actually worked in your dad's industry.
Absolutely. I grew up working with my father. So from when I was 15 years old, all the way up a long time. And, I always had a great close relationship with my father. So that helped tremendously. We always had great communication. We could, separate, family issues here and there from the mission and office work and things like that. So that really helped. There definitely was that, we got along great, and I think we made great progress together. There's just as Dave was alluding to, there's different times, different ways of growing the business back when, in the industry that I was in the jewelry business, it was the glory days. And, here you are in a completely different marketplace, trying to grow and needing new tactics, new sales approaches. And so sometimes, there's some challenges there, but, I think with, sitting down to really plan it out together, having good open communication. And we always had that. I think my father was always willing to look at things in new and fresh ways. And he was very aware and creative, even though we're, from different generations, that things have changed and we need to look at things in a fresh way. And I'm sure that's what agencies are facing too. Sometimes your kids get thrown into things as well. So I think it's easy to have a lack of training in situations like this too, where family members are coming in and like Dave had said, that one person from the beginning started from policy one and kind of built the process as they went. And is there really a plan to bring people on, or are you assuming they've just absorbed it from you somehow?
Well, I think you said something there that I had written down, which is like, what is the goal for each generation? Is it the same? Is the goal of that first generation, that older generation, are they just like, just get me to 65, right? Are they just saying like, I don't want to spend any money, like, let's not spend a dime. We're kind of good. We've been good for 40 years. Let's just hang out here. I just want you to run it exactly like I've been running it. And then if that's true, is the younger generation thinking the opposite? Like, that's cool, right, Dad? But I've got 40 years ahead of me. I can't just sit here and say, hey, hopefully nothing changes, especially, in 2019 with everything we have going on. We know no business is going to survive in that model. So
right.
That they have to make sure that they get on that same page. And Kelly, maybe to your point, if I'm going to come into the business, I need to make sure that me and Dad, Mom, whoever it is on that same page. Like, what is our goal? Because if our goal is not to expand, grow, get into basically growth mode and future mode versus let me just get through the next 3 years, then we're always going to be at odds every time a decision needs to be made on how to run the business.
Right.
I also think for the recommendation I have for the youth that are struggling with working for their parents is, and it's something we actually have on our whiteboard at home, which is be impressive every day. And so you have to realize that while it's intended that this business goes for you, your parents are still looking for you to impress them, to give over, and to let you purchase what they've worked really, really hard for, right? So if you're the person coming in late, if you're not the person that's the top salesperson or working towards that, if you're the person that has the biggest HR problems, you're not following dress code, or, like everything is more important, you're not grinding it out. I say it's like if your parents are still working more hours than you are, you're not impressing on them that you can take this and keep perpetuating the family name, right? So for all those kids out there, you can get frustrated that mom and dad don't want to invest in a new website or this or that. Stop and listen to them and check yourself in the mirror first and say, am I super impressive to my parents to impress them enough to get the opportunity to take this thing over?
I would say too, Cal, I don't think it's just to the parents, right? It's all of the employees. especially those employees that have been around for a while. There's employees that are working there that remember you running around in diapers, right? So if you're going to like someday come in and start to like, and to be their boss, I love that. I wrote it down. You have to be impressive every day, because there is that next generation where the older generation looks at them and is like, this person's very impressive. I'm more than willing to follow them. Versus if you're not impressive, I'm always going to look at you like a 5-year-old kid.
Right.
So I think it's more than just the parents. And even for those that don't remember you then, you're going to be younger than them. Even if you're the same age, even if you're slightly older, right? You have to make sure that you are acting like the boss on a daily basis in order to gain that respect, and then therefore the following to be able to run the business.
Absolutely. Scott, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure that that parents would have in a situation like that too, to feel that they perhaps need to give opportunities to family members. And you know, a way to kind of alleviate that pressure is to, as you just said, stand out, really rise above, and earn your way in a way that they and everyone else can see it. I know that when I started, you know, very young in an industry with my father, I had that feeling too, where I could see eyeballs on me, like wondering, oh, it's the boss's son. What's he gonna do? And I always worked really hard. I worked through every department in the factory. I started by cleaning things up, picking stuff up, taking out trash, doing, you know, there was nothing that was beneath me. And I really kind of earned the respect and friendship of people throughout all various departments. And then as I moved into leadership, that, you know, that really helped me. And, you know, I felt like I earned it. And to my father's credit as well, he didn't, you know, treat me as if, well, you know, can't give him too much responsibility, or, you know, I'm in charge or anything like that. He was very willing to give me opportunities to be creative, to get out there, and even to make mistakes.
Sure.
Cal, what would you say is the best, like if you could only give one piece of advice, either, you know, to the family as a whole, the older generation, younger generation, if you could just give one piece of advice, what would you say? Okay, this is the one thing, you got to start with this.
The starting point and the best piece of advice might be two different.
Okay.
Like my
Answer that however you want.
My starting point would always be to say that, you know, for the child coming in, and as childhood, like the young adult coming in, is just understand that you have to earn this opportunity. It's not a God-given right. And whatever happens, the second you take that business over and you purchase it from your parents, you're still going to talk about insurance at Thanksgiving dinner. They're still going to be over your shoulders. And depending on even how you structure that deal, you may be paying mom and dad for decades because they've helped finance this acquisition, and you can't be anywhere near upset about it. You know, like you have to sort of look at it like, I'm coming in here, they're not my parents. I'm coming into a small business that I have the opportunity to potentially own and take and direct to the next level. And for the parents, I think you have to look at it like a job interview for your child. And I think sometimes, you know, like pushing them out and seeing if they come back if it's not working may be heart-wrenching, but also the best thing that can happen, right? So, you know, I'm pretty sure that at 25 years old, if my mom was trying to tell me how to endorse policies or sell insurance, I might just lose my mind every now and again.
Right.
You know, on top of her asking me when I'm going to, you know, lose 10 pounds or get married or all the other things that, you know, families put on you. So it's like, they have to look at it like a job interview. And I really recommend to family-based businesses, one, you don't bring your family junk into the office. The very first place I worked at a college was a law firm, and the managing partner's mother was a lawyer. She was like 90 years old and would still come into work. And now this was like a 75-person law firm. They would literally fight in the waiting room, like to the point where everyone could hear it. And it was so uncomfortable if you were a staff member. Like emails would go out, like, avoid the waiting room. Mike and Eleanor are fighting. You can't do that. You cannot do that. And then, you know, the piece of advice that I also love is, and I know Dave told me this might hurt some people out there, so like just spoiler alert, don't call each mom and dad at the office. They're not mom and dad at the office. They are, you know, agency owner A, agency owner B. But when you're in a staff meeting with 10 plus people, and somebody goes, well, Mom, I don't agree with that, that doesn't make you look very impressive. And I think you have to catch yourself to not use mom and dad. It's definitely different. But in that work environment with their peers, they're their names.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I agree. One of the things that you mentioned there that I wanted to kind of come back around to too was there's a value in going somewhere else first, not just from like a separation and like, let me grow up a little bit so I can take direction from mom and dad. But part of the problem that I see when I go into many agents is that because they only have one perspective, because they've been running it this way for so long, you know, when you go and hire from the outside or bring in a consultant or a trainer or talk to other agency owners, that's where you gain additional perspectives. So, and I know a lot of agency owners do this, have your kid go work for 2 years at a carrier. Call one of your carriers, say, my kid's coming out of college, you got a CSR job where I can throw them at a desk and work in an office for, 18 months or 2 years, and then come on board. Or, if you have a friend that they can go work in, and even if it's outside of the industry, just to get some experience, in a professional environment. I often find people that come from working at a company, at a corporate company for 18 months to 24 months, come into a small business, a family-run business with a much unique perspective and much more professional approach. Mm-hmm. So regardless of what the experience is, I think working for a carrier is a great one. But going somewhere else first and then coming in has numerous benefits, and not just the maturity level. Let's get a couple of years closer to being an adult versus acting like you're still.
Someone else tell them to not come to work hungover.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's let someone else see them walk in the same outfit they did yesterday.
And some of it too is just having fun, right? Like, go have fun. Like, right. Go work in the city for 2 years and go out every night and go do that. And then when you're ready, come back and run the business.
No, I think that's a very valuable point. I do want to share with you the best advice I got recently at an agency. Husband and wife run. I think if they're listening, they'll know exactly who they are. And I am definitely giving you credit. I don't want to name names, but one of the things that I've seen, because I've actually been part of a few agency disillusions. So when partners decide to split up, and oddly enough, many of them are family, siblings, etc. And that just wreaks havoc on every other family member. And this person said it, and it made so much truth to me, which was, when you go to work and you come home to your spouse and you complain about your boss, it's not personal, right? It's like, oh, he had a tough day. He was a jerk today. He's, all over me. And when they go to the Christmas party, your spouse isn't like, oh, I hate your boss. They're like, whatever. Yeah. When you go home and you say, oh, my parents are all over me. I can't believe they did this. They won't let me do this. Now your spouse is looking at their in-laws and holds that like, gosh, what is going on? Why won't they let my husband be happy? Or why won't they let my wife be happy? And they don't forget. And as a family, you tomorrow over the coffee maker might be like, yeah, I was a jerk yesterday. Me too. I'm sorry. And let it go. The spouse is like brewing.
Right.
And then you get into, oh, well, they're killing themselves. They deserve a raise and all these other things that the spouse is really involved in these families. And I think really important is you have to find someone else to vent about your family-based business other than your spouse, because there is a different relationship there that can become very tainted. Mm-hmm. And when we've seen sibling agencies break apart, the spouses or significant others for some reason are 10 times angrier than the actual two business partners. Now there's a little telephone game to that, right? Like if I call up Scott and be like, Scott, can you believe what my brother did today? I'm telling my version of the truth.
Right.
But you have to be careful to find that other person, and vice versa. If you work in the other side of the coin is if you work in a family-based business, don't go tell your mom and dad about what your wife did, because they'll never let go of it either. And all of a sudden, all these family members don't like each other for no reason, when it's just normal.
Sounds just like good life advice, Kelly.
It is. It really is.
I'm not sure that anyone should be going and complaining to their parent about their spouse. It seems like that's going to backfire.
Whenever it is, you're always going to be looked at the person who, like, didn't empty the dishwasher that day.
Yeah. We're going to add some virtual venting hours to the online floor.
We're going to add some secret shopper calls to your spouse.
Excellent.
No, it's like, I think it's like, I always call it golden handcuffs being in a family-based business, right? It's the biggest blessing in the world to be able to take over your family's legacy, but you have to be able to manage the stuff that comes with it too, in a way that makes sense. And if your siblings are your business partners, you have to be able to trust them and really look at what everybody's strengths are so that you can maximize their strengths and not ask people to do things that aren't within their comfort zones and their, fill in the weaknesses some other way.
As agency owners, I think it's important to ask the question, what do you want your legacy to be for your family beyond your time at the agency? What do you want the agency to look like in 10 years and 20 years? And as you come together as a family to discuss these things, it can be difficult perhaps to set that vision together and to set those goals together without an outside view. And I think that's where we can come in to help.
Yeah, I agree. I think the number one thing, and I know this is easier said than done, but I think it's just almost removing the personal nature when it comes to, things like business decisions. Like, it's great to be able to work with your family, whether it's, your same generation, previous generation, younger generation. But when it comes to making a decision for the business, you really have to kind of remove the fact that, well, I like you today, so I'm going to agree with you. And, we had a fight Friday night at the bar, so now I'm going to disagree with you. It's just like, let's objectively look at it and remove that personal part of the relationship from it and just say, okay, what's the right decision for the business? And the more that we do that, the better we're positioning the agency for success.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just think everyone's got to look at what they have as a blessing, not a curse, and realize, sometimes a dose of perspective helps all of us. And I think in family-based businesses, it's huge. I mean, there's so many people that will never have the honor of owning a business, and for you to be able to carry on your family's legacy is just gigantic. But don't think it's a God-given right. I think just keep going back to that one phrase of be impressive every single day, and it will be a whole lot easier. But coming in, with your Starbucks in hand late and calling out sick and not producing insurance or not staying focused on what you need and, and trying to chase a whole bunch of different avenues, just think about it from the perspective of you need to be the best employee that your parents have and set the stage. And then the rest of it will come a whole lot easier.
Agreed.
Absolutely agreed.
Appreciate you guys getting on this podcast and this March. We'll see a couple people over at Elevate, which will be fun. And then I'm sure we're going to have an awesome topic for April, which, but we will.
Well, we always say too, we're open to building podcasts around ideas. So if somebody has an idea on, a topic that they'd like to hear us banter around for a few minutes here, send it over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. And we will catch you for next month's podcast.
All right.
All right.